Alright, so I've been asked, well, by Spritzo specifically, to kind of make a dungeon tutorial, or I mentioned that I would for him anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and try and do that. I had said that I wouldn't do it until I got a second monitor, but I thought I would go ahead and try anyway. So first I'm starting in Qubicle to create just a simple room asset, and I'll make a few of those. And then I'll move over to the Metaforge and start assembly. So I click on the Create Matrix button up here, and it brings up a prompt for how big I want it to be. I'm just going to make this, leave this one at 10 by 10. I'm just going to do some really simple things. And I'll double click it to edit it here. And the first button I use is for empty matrix. The ones near it are for filled matrices. I pretty much always start with an empty matrix. So what you saw there was I held my spacebar to change the orientation of the layer that I'm going to look at. You'll notice the bars moving there, and I changed it to this because I want to just set like a floor basically for it. And this icon over here is the paint bucket. I'm using hotkeys to access them. They're basically the same as Photoshop. So V, M, I think that one's B. I don't use it no, I do use it pretty often. I just don't remember what it is at the moment. Let me try it. Yes, B indeed. And the next one over is to add cubes, which that's color cubes. That one's add cubes. They work the same way in the mode here. I've never used the rectangle tool. I actually had to look to see what it is. And actually it shows the hotkeys. I just noticed. I didn't remember where I found them. If you look down here, as I hover over those, it'll show the hotkey as part of the name. So it shows you that Move Tools V, and shows you some other tooltip information down there. So anyway, I'm going to go back to the Paint Bucket Fill tool. And it says double-click icon to switch mode. So right now, I don't... So that's its default mode, that dashed line. That just means it'll fill everything, basically. But I set it to contiguous mode so that I know I'm only going to fill in this layer and that's it, which I think in this particular case it would only do that. But I'll show you really quick what it would do if I had it in that mode and I had a shape on the base here. So I just drew a really basic black box just to illustrate this. And to switch background and foreground colors, that's the same as Photoshop as well, so that's X. And I selected my paint bucket with hotkey again. And you'll notice it filled in the inside, which is really what I wanted to do, and the outside. So I'm going to undo that. I switched to contiguous mode, and now I'm going to do the same thing. So it only filled in the inside. So that's mainly what the contiguous mode is for. It doesn't work very well outside of the layer view. At least I haven't been able to get it to. And the delete key deletes things. Sometimes it doesn't work in this view. I'm not certain why. It's just a bug with Qubicle right now. So sometimes you can select it in this view and then switch back to this view. It keeps your selection and press delete there. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a solid block. And actually, I think I'm going to make it kind of dirt colored. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to use this as my starting color, but I'm going to click on it to customize it a bit. So, I mean, it's kind of a sandy color, so that works. And I'm going to make like a little sandcastle or something on it, just something real quick so you can tell the pieces apart. So I went back to my Add Block tool. And the reason you keep seeing the paintbrush there, you can hold Control to sample colors, but that's also the button I'm pressing to talk. So there I've got a super basic sandcastle, and I'm going to go ahead and go out of this model to the main view here, and I'm going to move it over a bit, and go ahead and start another model the same size. Alright, and on this one, again, I'm going to use that same ground color because I want it to be the same on all of them. And I I think I'll make a little bridge or something this time. And undo is Control Z like most other programs. And Alt, I forgot to mention, is what you use to rotate and zoom in and out. So you'll see it switch to a camera when I'm pressing that. Alright, so that's just a very, very basic bridge. I'm actually going to make a little gap in it and make just some blue blocks to make it look vaguely like water, even though I'm not actually going to put water in it in the Metaforge. Alright, and I believe I'm going to make one more piece, just so we have a decent little example here. May make a couple more than that. And actually, I forgot to resample my color I have here, so I'm going to go back and get it. And to sample the color, you actually need to have one of the pencil tools or the fill tool selected. I think you might be able to do it with the eraser too, but I can't remember for certain. Alright, so let's see, what do I want to do with this one? Oh, yes, I pressed Control A on accident because I was switching to the Add key, so that selects everything. Made like 2 little walls for this one, just something super simple like the others. Also a very nice hotkey when you're in this area, and actually you can do it while you're inside the model itself too, is Control B, as in Bravo. It duplicates your selection. So what I could actually do, and it does do the sample on eraser too, because anyway, what I'm actually going to do is just make this base. And I'm going to go out and copy it. That way, I don't have to remake that part each time, I just have to build something on top of it. And I think this will be my last room, so I'm going to make it be the entrance. Alright, so now I'm going to save all these pieces. And I'm going to export them as QB because I need to convert them to a blueprint. Which I actually didn't open the part to do that. Alright, took me a minute to remember what I had that directory as there. And I'm just picking really simple names so I can remember them. This dialog box lets you change a few things about how the model's saved, but I typically don't change anything in here. The main thing that I do change occasionally is this single object. So what that means is if you have multiple things selected, it'll combine them into one larger model as it saves them. Alright, so now I need to make those blueprints. Alright, so I've got my blueprints now. And now all I have to do is load them into the MetaForge. And I actually have that open already. So I'm going to change my view here as soon as... Well, actually I'm just going to drag these in as is right now. Let's start off with the entrance. And you notice I just dragged it on there. You can also use /load and then the path to the file and the file name. So for your very first piece, your entrance effectively, you want to use the red plug, which is already provided in your inventory. And normally I would offset this model a little bit so that this would spawn slightly above the ground, but I'm just going to make it so it's even with the ground, so it'll actually carve out one layer of ground when it places, just because I don't want to resave that model. And then when you're done placing things, you just type /save, and it'll save the last model you loaded. And one thing I didn't do on that entrance yet is actually add a way for any of the other rooms to plug into it. And really, you can do that at any time, so I'm actually going to go back and do it because I forgot. But I'll go ahead and do this room first since I opened it up here. So that first room is the only time you use that red plug. Now to plug other room, each room may only have one plug, but it can have a lot of sockets. And you don't ever need the red socket in creating your dungeons. So I'm just go ahead and use orange for this one. And let's see. I think I'll use an orange plug as well. So I can make one of the other rooms an orange plug, and they'll be kind of interchangeable or interlockable. So I'm going to say the entrance is there, and the exit is over here. So that, and one important thing, if you're going to have them connect together, you need to have them straight across like this, or it won't plug up correctly. And I may have slightly messed it up, but I believe that it's correct. It's pretty easy to mess it up, unfortunately, so sometimes it takes some trial and error. So I'm going to save this one and go ahead and go back to the entrance. Alright, so back here, I'm going to get my orange socket, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but that should be the offset center to that side. So I'm just trying to get it to line up with that plug so these pedestals will be even. And I'm not going to use an orange on the other sides. I'm actually going to use a few different colors. So I'm going to make a blue and a purple as well. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and drag their plugs out so I don't have to get those later. And I'm going to save this again. So basically, what I just did is set it up so that an orange plug room can connect here, a blue plug room can connect here, and a purple here. One important thing is that every plug you place, or socket that you place, must be filled with a room. So you always want to have basically some dead-end plugs with no purpose other than capping it off. So let's see. I am going to make both the purple and the blue dead end. And it doesn't really matter which side I connect to because it's basically mirrored. I'll put 5, and you want to make sure you do have the plug facing outward for the way you want it to connect. When I was standing up here, I couldn't do that, but I had to be up here for the socket. Alright, so that's my purple. And we'll do our castle as the blue. And the tricky part is remembering that it needs to be offset to this side when you're reversed like this. So, like I said, it does definitely involve some trial and error occasionally. And for our last piece, we'll just give it an orange plug, but no orange socket like we did on the other one. Alright, so now I need to create my dungeon file so it can assemble all these pieces. And I use Notepad++ as my text editor. It really doesn't matter what you use. It's basically all the same. And I may have to look at my other dungeon file in here to... Actually, I probably will. Because I don't remember exactly how to structure it. I know some basics. I'm pretty sure it's the name in brackets there. And then a few tags below it. And that's mostly what I don't remember. Alright, so it looks like it's just the piece number in the tags, which I don't know how relevant that is. I think it's just to differentiate all of the pieces. It was just like that in the examples that they listed for us, so I kept that theme. And so the blueprint, you literally want to put the name of your file without the file extension. I think it may work with the file extension, but it definitely makes it look a lot more clean if you leave off the file extension. And the quantity means how many times that piece can be used. And there's a weight, like you see down here. You'll notice I have this stairway. So basically, I only want it to create that stairway when it can't fit anything else in that same spot. And similarly, when you're making an end cap, you don't want it to place it until it can't place anything else. And I don't think it's case sensitive, but I think I used lowercase, so I'm going to go back and fix that. I'm just going to set this up so I can copy it, make this a little faster. I think I had 5, so we'll check that. Alright, so it doesn't really matter. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter what order I add these in. So I'll go ahead and go with the walls, which is the orange piece that also has an orange socket. Yep, and it turns out I did do all those lowercase. And I'm going to allow it to do, I don't know, four of those. It may not be able to fit all of them, but I'm going to go ahead and say it can use 4. And then next I'm going to do the bridge, because it's my other orange piece, so I can kind of keep them grouped. And it's only going to be able to place 1, because it's an end cap, and I don't have any other way to connect the orange right now. So I'm also going to set its weight to 0. So that it only places that piece when it can't fit another orange piece. So if it runs out of oranges or it runs into one of the boundaries of the dungeon, it'll add this piece instead. Hopefully I don't run out of boundary before it can add it, but there's, you know, like I said, trial and error. Alright, so next I'm going to do the castle piece, which is our blue piece. And since nothing else can connect to it, there's no point in doing any more than 1, and there's nowhere else that we used a blue socket. You can do more, and it will randomize it to some extent. That's actually part of what this weight does, and it can be a decimal weight. The default weight is 1. I don't know that there's a maximum. I think I used up to 6 in some things I was testing with. Alright, so I have the corners still, so actually I miscounted by 1. I said 5, but I made 6. Alright, so I saved my file, and I'm going to save it up here and just make it simple test, just because I can't think of a better name right now. Or actually, you know, desert dry or something, sure. And you do want to change it to that dungeon extension, which is part of why I like Notepad more, because you don't have to change that save as type on the bottom to get it to save it with a different file extension. So you'll notice it has my name up there. You can either drag and drop the dungeon file onto the game like you did the blueprints, or you can do, I believe, the same /load command, but you have to specify the file extension in that case. You don't, it assumes it's a blueprint file if you don't specify. Alright, and you'll notice down there it says Dungeon Generator failed to find layout. So actually this gives me a good opportunity to show you how to kind of troubleshoot that. So I'm going to enter flight mode here by pressing F9. And you can hold shift to fly a little bit faster, because you notice it made this pedestal. That's where it actually constructs it, is on the top of that. Alright, so a handy tool that may get more handy in the future is the /timelapse dungeon command. Now you do have to specify the file name and the extension to get this to work, but I'll go ahead and show you what it does. That's also a big part of why I have those files directly under in a folder directly under one of my drives. A lot easier to retype it that way if you need to. I guess that would have made more sense as dry desert, but oh well. So what this is going to do is going to try to build the dungeon. And you can see it doing that up there. So now it's placing these orange pieces, and where I told it could use 4, it has 3, now 4, and it stopped there for some reason. Should have still been able to place the end cap, so I'm not certain. It should have had room for that. But it looks like it didn't even try it for some reason, so that means I may have set it up incorrectly. And that definitely can happen. Yep, it's not finding anything to fill that slot, so let me drag my blueprint back on here. I definitely have my plug on there. And I reloaded it, so I mean it was definitely saved with it as well. Although the plug isn't quite in the right spot. So let me actually reduce the number of the other piece to 3. Perhaps it didn't have room to add it and it just automatically ruled that out. I'm not quite certain. And you can use the up arrow once you have the chat prompt up to redo a previous command within this game session, so that helps a lot. Alright. So it has 2, 3, and it stopped again. And if you don't want to sit there while it keeps retrying, you can use that stop timelapse dungeon command that I just used. Right there it is again. So I'm going to go down and just remove the plugs, or actually just remove this piece that the walls piece, and to see if it will just attach that one end piece. I'm just going to go ahead and do it as time-lapse, since it's entirely possible it'll still fail. Alright. So it already says that it's going to fail. Interesting. Okay, so I must be mistyping that file name. It's the issue, because it's not going any further. So let's check it here. Ah, they're all the same name. That may cause it, so I guess those are a little more relevant. Forgot to change those when I copied it. Actually, I'll go ahead and do the time lapse again, just so you can see kind of how it constructs it. Alright, so there it plugged in the first piece. And it's building these walls again. And I didn't put anything on the side or anything like that, no variation, so it can only build it straight out. There's our bridge, so that was the issue. And there's our last piece. And so it actually succeeded this time. So it normally won't show these plugs. And you'll notice that there's a gap between them. So actually, to get rid of that, I would need to move the sockets and plugs on top of the pieces. And literally, the socket and the plug occupy the same space when they're combined. So I could put the plug here, but I would have to offset the socket, or sorry, socket here and plug here, but I would have to offset the socket. So it's where it is now, so that when it plugs in, it would attach there and there would be no gap. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick to show you the difference. Sorry about that camera angle there. And since I already had that one on the edge, it's super easy for me to put it on top of it. Alright, so all the pieces except the entrance should be ready, so let me finish it up. Alright, so I'm going to just try dragging the dungeon file in instead of doing the time lapse this time. Alright, and there's no error message, so it means it should be complete when I get up to the top here. Alright, and there it is. And you'll notice there are no gaps, but you'll also notice that, like I thought, I misplaced that plug. Of course, that'd be super easy to fix just to go back and edit it. But that's also why it's good to test your dungeon's build as you create it. So it's because it's so easy to make a mistake like that, and it could cause major issues later. It's good to test it as often as you can. That's definitely one thing I learned pretty quickly. I actually misplaced both these two, you'll notice. So anyway, that's the basics. There also are these blockers, and basically what they do, I'll just place a couple of them real quick and explain it. So the one I have first is a large blocker, and you'll notice it creates like a rectangle around it if I place it. So now you see how it has this very large rectangle. So what this means is, if I place another blocker on another piece, it won't do anything since this is the built version, but if I'd placed it on a piece, it would mean that the other blocker cannot intersect with this one, and that piece be valid. So you can use it to block certain pieces from places you don't want, or keeping rooms from overlapping, and things like that. So the large blocker probably isn't going to be used as much as the small blocker, which is the other one. So you'll notice it's a pretty big size difference. So the way they're overlapped right now, if these were defined as dungeon pieces, this would actually mean that whichever piece it tries to add after the other one is placed wouldn't fit because it would break that rule. So that's it for this quick tutorial. Hopefully it helped you out, and let me know if you have any feedback.